This is Times Radio.
It's 10 minutes to 3 and you're listening to John Harvey on Times Radio. Now, the end of the year is always a natural time for the media to look back on the famous names from all walks of life who passed away over the last 12 months. Dame Maggie Smith, Franz Beckenbauer, James Earl Jones and Graham Thorpe are just a few of this year's notable deaths. But while many roundups are inevitably on the dry side, one British artist and illustrator has devised a different way to celebrate the celebrities who've left us. For the last 9 years, Chris Barker has created a tradition of arranging the pantheon of newly deceased stars by using the album cover of Sgt Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band as a template. The result is a visually arresting and beautifully curated montage, which comes complete with a trivia element as you feel immediately challenged to see how many names you can put to the faces. And I'm delighted to say that Chris joins me now. Hi, Chris, and happy Christmas.
Hi, John. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I hope you are. And I have to say, I'm a little bit starstruck here because your work, and I mean this totally genuinely, has become a firm Christmas staple for me. It's an astonishing achievement what you do. And as ever, this has been quite a big year for big names passing away. You've got a unique insight into this on a year-to-year basis. So how does 2024 compare?
Well, it's not. It sounds terrible to say it, actually, John, but it's not been a classic year. It's last year was quite a big one. This year's been it's a bit more tame. To be honest, the interesting thing about it is that after I release it, I then have to sort of keep updating it with as more news breaks, you know.
Yes,
and
of course.
In previous years, that's meant like adding George Michael on Christmas Day, which was quite a big one, you know. But this year it's been surprisingly quiet. I mean, apart from well, yes, obviously, I'm not hoping for more additions, but apart from Olivia Hussey from Romeo and Juliet and the crocodile from Crocodile Dundee, I haven't really had to add that many this year. And I think people sort of blame me. They're like, well, it's been a bit boring. Can you add a few more? But
yes.
Yeah, it's a sort of a living piece of art, really, which is ironic, really, considering the subject matter.
It really is. There's a real paradox there. And you mentioned the crocodile from Crocodile Dundee. I think that's one of the beautiful things about it is you do work in some sort of figures who you might not necessarily imagine. I think there was a rosette for the Conservative Party. Kind of thing. And I love some of the I mean, do you get particularly pleased by certain elements of the montage you create? Like, for example, this year, there's Supergran, aka Gudrun Yer, sort of affectionately patting Jeff Capes on the head. And things. So is that... Somebody actually sent
me that picture because it was a picture of Jeff Capes actually holding Supergran, and he said, "This one's for you." I'd already added both of them separately, and I was like, I have to change that now, don't I? Yeah, no, I like the juxtaposition of various things as well. You know, always try and do it respectfully, but Tito Jackson and Toto Scalacci, I remember, died within days of each other, and I couldn't help but put them next to each other because of Tito and Toto. And then two different past drummers of the Bee Gees died within about 7 days of each other, so they ended up next to each other as well. But,
I think that's wonderful. These little lateral connections that you can put into the picture that we can all find. And I have to say, I think you're performing a bit of a public service here because, for starters, I think it's a poignant and powerful way of reminding us of these stars who passed away, including ones we might have missed. So, for instance, I noticed this year there's Vic Flick, the guitarist who played the James Bond theme.
That's right, yeah.
John Anderson, the original referee on Gladiators. I mean, these are all sort of incongruous figures, but together, I mean, it creates quite a feeling of a tapestry. Is that part of the feeling that helps you, sort of drive you to do it year on year?
I try and, I mean, because I get so many sort of replies saying, you've missed so-and-so, you've missed so-and-so, I try and be as thorough as possible now, but which has made it look like the overall number of famous people who've died has increased year on year. I have people sending me statistics saying, I notice it's 20 more people than last year and 40 more than 2 years ago. But because I'm trying to be more complete, it does look like there are more. But then there's always somebody, about 10 minutes ago, just before we came on, somebody messaged me to point out that someone who played was a character in a 1974 episode of Doctor Who, Death to the Daleks I'd missed out, and I'm actually really annoyed. You know, I'm like you know that bit in Blackadder where Robbie Coltrane plays Samuel Johnson, and he says he's compiled all the words in the English language, and Blackadder insists on picking.
Absolutely. This is the sausage equivalent.
It feels a little bit like that, yeah.
Yes. Well, I have to ask you, this montage, which, like I say, I think it's become a bit of a sort of modern tradition, and it's been spawned out of online cultures where you started posting them, and it's had a chance to spread and grow a fan base. And I wonder, do you think there's like a community aspect to culture which you're tapping into? Because for me, it points to the fact that although we live in such an increasingly fragmented world, we're all still part of a shared community. These are figures that we all know, we all love. Again, is that part of what drives you to do it? And do you feel you're tapping into something there?
It does feel it's become like a bit of a tradition, like the Christmas Radio Times or Morecambe and Wise or something. People do, like, over the course of the year, they're messaging me saying, "Oh, don't miss this one, don't miss this one." And then, people always say they feel bad for saying it, but they really enjoy it, because it's supposed to... I'm sort of like the custodian of some kind of national grief or something. Well, I don't know. It's like the end bit in the Oscars or the BAFTAs or whatever. It's not a unique thing. People do like to sort of look back and see who we have lost over the course of the year, and it's so concise, I suppose. It's all in one place, and it's something people can spend 10 minutes looking at, and like you say, picking out people they may have missed.
Yeah, I think the nostalgia is part of it. Everyone goes back to their own memories of whether they enjoyed watching James Earl Jones in Star Wars, or it might be something like Clear and Present Danger. Any single individual can take people back and give them more memories.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned the fact that it's this one physical image, and I have to ask, out of curiosity, because there's a bit of a grey area on the internet where the realms of parody and homage meet the juggernaut of copyright. This is something I know a little bit about. And of course, the Beatles' iconography and celebrity photos, they're all owned by someone. Is this montage a happy case of people and companies understanding the goodwill of your project? Are there hurdles you have to clear, or have you got to the point now where people sort of go, everyone loves this, we'll let it go?
I mean, that's what I think's happened, yeah, because I don't make any, I don't sell it. It's not a profit-making thing. It's just a sort of a put it out there, and if people enjoy it, they enjoy it sort of thing. To be honest, I don't really know how I would monetize it anyway, because as soon as it's gone live, it's irrelevant. I couldn't really sell merchandise off it, because who wants a picture of last year? So I think I think that people seem to have just accepted that that's something. I was talking to a photographer a thing recently, and he said he didn't mind that I'd used one of his pictures in it. So hopefully the others don't mind. I mean,
well, I hope so too. So far so good on that front.
It's been 10 years now. Well, it's 10 years next year. I might do something to celebrate next year. I might have an exhibition or something.
You must. Well,
yeah.
And a bumper one. It'd be a giant montage of all 10. That'd be amazing. But just finally, because I've seen you quoted as saying more than once that each year's montage will be your last. Now, you've just hinted potentially that next year we are going to get another, which makes me happy. I know it's in a slightly grisly way, but is it because of the effort it takes or the standards? Just very briefly, just tell us, is it you now happy to do one next year? It's not with...
I've said I'm going to do one next year, and then I might reassess, because it's been 10 years. I've said 10 years a few times now, but it's a long time. Someone rather darkly pointed out that, what are you going to do? You're just going to continue doing them until one year you leave one half finished and someone has to add you, which is quite a dark thought, but hopefully...
Well, that would be one hell of a way to be immortalised. I think it would be a testament to it. Well, I know you do an awful lot of other things, but Chris, honestly, it's a fantastic piece of work, and I do hope you keep going, because I just think it is one of my sort of favourite festive moments of every year. That was Chris Barker, the wonderful artist and art director.